You too. What's going on? I'm sitting up in the dark, man. It's dark. Um, what's going on, man? Appreciate y'all watching my videos. I know I haven't been making many videos lately, but just been busy, man. Just been busy trying to get it in. I wanted to talk about something real quick. I probably talked about it before, but a lot of guys, they call me, they email me and stuff, and they ask me questions on, buying trucks and stuff like that. I really appreciate it, like somebody has the, yeah, it's very interesting, somebody to feel like feel so comfortable they'd be able to ask me for questions. I'm honored to be able to ask those questions. Like, I was talking to a guy. Last week. Charles. That's his name. I bumped into him at the yard in Atlanta, and you hear that? It's an ambulance, fire truck. I bumped into him at the yard, and he recognized my videos, and it's just kind of cool because he asked me a question about getting a truck because he's trying to get on the Snyder Choice board and get a truck. So I have this philosophy of getting a truck. I kind of use it in my personal life. I use this philosophy in the business world. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix this light. Yeah, it's a little bit better. What I was saying, yeah, guys be asking me questions about getting trucks. So I use a lot of these principles that I talk about in my personal life and in my professional life, where when you evaluating a business opportunity, even like, say if you're gonna buy a house, because I get people asking me questions about buying houses and stuff like that. So I try to explain to people, like a lot of people don't understand how serious it is what they're buying into. And I try to explain to people, like, okay, when we're talking about contracts, a note, when you're signing a note for something, a car, a house, a truck, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're signing a contract, an obligation, a promise to do something. And if you don't abide by that promise, that company has the right to take you to court, and they can take all your shit away. The only organization that don't have to have things in writing is the IRS. They're the only people that can snatch money away from you, or they can take shit away from you without telling you about it. But anybody else, they have to go through legal means, like a bank or something like that, or a trucking company or something like that. I'm sorry, it's taking me a while. It's 4 or 5 minutes into the video. I ain't talked about nothing yet. Okay. For example, if you're gonna buy a house, a truck, a car, or whatever, I I try to explain to people to do it when you go into a situation. Do it with the exit strategy. It's very important to have an exit strategy because, for example, if you get a truck and you in a lease purchase truck and it's a 3-year lease. A 3-year lease, okay? In those 3 years, there's a lot of fucking things that can go wrong in 3 years. And the same thing I tell people when you're buying a house. A lot of people, I get people asking me questions about buying the house. My only take is, if you're going to buy a house, try to buy a house that's cheap enough to where you can pay it off fast. And the same thing I talk about and I tell guys when they get in the truck. Don't do a lease purchase more than a year. Because within a year, there are a lot of things that could go wrong in a year. And if something does go wrong, you're only obligated to pay you only obligated up to that year's worth of contract. Just like, especially when you got weekly payments in trucking, it's very common to have weekly payments. Like if you have monthly payments, you can weather it a little bit, because if your truck break down or something like that, you have a buffer, so to speak. It's another video I'm going to talk about managing a lease purchase and ways to stay out of the hole and stuff like that. I do got some videos talking about being in a hole, but there's another thing I want to talk about. But here's the deal. Like, in America, it's very common to get a 30-year mortgage. I don't believe in 30-year mortgages, okay? Because in 30 years, a lot of things can happen in 30 years. A lot of things can happen. But if you're going to get a 30-year mortgage, make sure you get one where if something happens that you can walk away from it, okay? Because if you can't walk away from it, the bank can sue you, and what they can do is they can sell the property as a short sale and come after you for the difference. Now, if you buy a house for $100,000 with PMI and all this other bullshit, what they're gonna do is, you buy the house for $100,000, they're gonna tack on additional $10,000 to $15,000 on the back end. So even if you wanted to sell the house, you couldn't, because if you paid $100,000 for the house and they put additional $10,000 to $15,000 on the back of the house, on the back of the note, and say if you want to sell the house and the house is $80,000, say the house is worth $80,000, you would have to pay the bank $35,000 to get out from under it. Now, say if you would have bought the house for $50,000, okay, and put maybe $10,000 in, that'll put you on the note for $60,000. And say 5 years later you decide to sell the house and this house is worth $80,000, you have a better chance of getting out from under that. So the same thing I apply trucks, cars, anything else, because with depreciating assets it's a killer. Like houses, like you can rent houses out, but a lot of people they live in houses. They're not income producing. So it's a liability. You're paying money every month. You're just paying money every month. You got this big ass fucking bill. And the same thing with a truck. Now, go back to what I was saying. Now, with the truck, If something goes wrong with it, you're not making no money. So in a 12-month period of a lease, say your payments is $700 a week. Okay? Say your payments is $700 a week. I'm pulling up my calculator. Your payments is $700 a week times 52. That 1 year lease is worth $36,000. Okay? Now say you're 6 months into the lease. Okay? 700 times 26. That's $18,000 at the 6 month. At the 6 month mark of a 12 or 50 of a 1 year lease, you're only obligated for the $18,000 or the 6 months of lease payments. That is way less pressure in payments than you do with somebody who's got a 3-year lease or 4 or 5 year lease. That's not a good deal. You need to have an exit strategy. Okay? It's very important to have an exit strategy. You need to build some type of exit strategy in your business plan. Okay? So now you can apply the same principle like if you're gonna go to a dealer and buy a car. If you want to buy a car, and say you bought this car. 1 year into the car purchase or into making the payments, you decide you don't want the car no more, right? Now say if you want to sell it. We all know cars depreciate really, really, really fast, okay? The majority of a car's depreciation is like 70% of a car's depreciation is like in the first 3 to 4 years. After that, it kind of flatlines and kind of goes down slow. But the first 4 years is like a rock, and then it levels off. Okay? So, like when I say drops and levels off, like if you was to graph it, like if you on the XY coordinate and you was to see like how much the car is worth in dollars, it goes down really, really fast the first 3 years. It trickles down, and then it levels off. And it kind of just levels off a little bit. So that's what I'm talking about. If any of you guys like study mathematics or something like that, or economics, so that's where that comes from, graphs and stuff. So, yeah. So that's the point, man. It's like, okay, when we're talking about business and protecting yourself long term, you want to build some type of exit strategy in your business plan. So when I tell guys only do a 1 year lease, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? Yeah, it's a little bit riskier because the truck may break down, you don't have a but a lot of these places out here, they force you to get into like a multi-year lease program, which I don't agree with, because you're obligated to fulfill that 3 years of lease payments. A lot of things can go wrong in the 3 year period. So that's my point. So I apply that same thing in my personal life and in business life. If you're gonna buy a house or whatever, if you're gonna buy a house and it's worth $100,000, make sure that you're buying it with some equity. So that way, if something happens, you can walk away from it. If you buying a house right at cost or right where it's worth, it's gonna be very hard to get up from up under that house. You're married to this fucking house. You're handcuffed to the fucking house, just like a truck, a car, or whatever. You're handcuffed to it, and these companies know that. That paperwork ties you to that contract, ties you to that piece of shit. And basically that depreciating asset, and it's a shame. It's a fucking shame. And that's America. Paperwork. That's America. So that's the bottom line, man. Do a 1-year lease. Do a 1-year lease. I know a lot of guys, they dead set on it, but see, like, I'm planning on buying this truck, but it's the lease itself is only for 1 year. After this 1 year is up, I just re-sign the truck for another year. Okay? I just signed the truck for another year. So that way, I have an exit strategy. After the 1 year is up, I have options. I can walk away, give them the truck back. I can buy the truck. You know, every year is different. Every year is different. Something might change. You kind of weighing your options. You can go to a dealer. You know what I'm saying? You want to have options. Every year is different. So that's the whole point. You want to give yourself options, not tie yourself down and lock yourself in to where you don't have any flexibility to move in business. Business fluctuates, it goes up and down. But with these contracts and with having a note, like a mortgage or something like that, you're only guaranteeing the bank a long-term payment. You know, you're an asset to them. You're paying them payments. But yeah, man. Thought I'd make this quick video, man. I appreciate y'all watching my videos. I'll see y'all next time.